We want to find solutions that are not police-based to the problems in our city, and we think that it's time that the residents and the community members who've been most affected have the biggest voice in how we do this. The mayor has doubled down several times and said he is committed to broken windows policing, despite what happened to Eric Garner, despite what happened to the Daza family, a family of street vendors here in 2014, despite what happens to all of those viral videos we all share on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, all those police interactions. At its core, the police interactions are what create that possibility for a video to come about. So we want to talk about those interactions and how we don't need some of those interactions and how there are solutions for some of these quality of life issues that don't have a gun and a badge.
My name is Nicholas Avery Sr., the father of Nicholas McMahon Avery Jr., who was murdered by NYPD 23 years ago. This happened September 27, 1994. Broken windows has been a target in my area, and that is partially the blame as to why Nicholas Jr. and others are being targeted in the communities like the Gowanus houses where I grew up in. This is something that's not invisible to elected officials. They all know about broken windows.
I've been told for the past few years that New York is a sanctuary city. I live in Brooklyn, so it's a little hard for me to believe. It's hard for me to believe, being that my family's from the Caribbean, right? So it's hard for me to believe that when almost 80% of people deported back to the Caribbean are deported for low-level offenses or non-violent offenses. It's hard for me to believe that. It's hard for me to believe it's a sanctuary city when I'm seeing El Grito footage of cops, aggressive policing here in Sunset Park, beating up on pregnant women, beating up on indiscriminately women, children. The only thing they do discriminate against is if it's your color. One thing, if you get arrested for a low-level offense, your fingerprint goes to a federal database, right? It goes to a federal database, so if you're undocumented, you can be found out quickly by ICE. NYPD doesn't have to collaborate with ICE. They do half the job for them.
In this particular time, these summons warrants are particularly tricky and dangerous because they have immigration consequences. These summons warrants are arrest warrants. So your $25 fine, you can spend, not only can you spend 24 hours locked up in central booking, which is ridiculous and unfair, but they can also be used to prioritize you for deportation. And so with that, I've also created in Brooklyn an immigration affairs unit and hired immigration attorneys so that these low-level offenses, the district attorneys that work there understand the consequences of when they're offering plea bargains or sentence recommendations. Because my position is very clear on this. I don't believe that any resident in this city should ever be deported because they committed a low-level offense.
Lastly, are we a sanctuary city? Some people have argued to me that President Obama deported more individuals. It's just not true. Just not true at all. There is stepped up enforcement. There is stepped up enforcement. Let me just finish. Let me finish my statement. President Obama did deport a significant number of people. There's no arguing. You can't argue with facts. That's the facts. However, ICE, as a result of what they're doing now, is ICE on steroids. It's above and beyond what President Obama did. Because President Obama focused primarily, one, on certain categories. Now, under this administration, under this president, they're arresting individuals for jumping the turnstile, for engaging in relatively minor offenses, broken windows.
ICE don't do that.
NYPD
do that.
ICE is doing that.
ICE is not at 149th and 3rd Avenue every
you.
single morning, Letitia Jane, and I'm gonna have to cut your mic. Cause I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna tell y'all something right now. ICE is not at Broadway Junction. ICE is not at Utica and Eastern Parkway. ICE is not at New Lots and Hegeman on the number 3 line. That is the NYPD. Let's be clear on that. So we're not gonna have elected officials do a song and dance and do this whole anti because the NYPD